Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's nice when you guys say hi. My name is Chad Towarnicki, and I would like to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Pottstown. Welcome to those who are joining us here in the sanctuary. Welcome to those who are joining us live on Zoom. And welcome to those who are visiting our service online in the future on YouTube. This morning, our music will be played by Cecilia. And thank you to Emily for doing our technology. For nearly 60 years, the UUFP has been a liberal religious voice in this Pottstown area. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that every person possesses inherent worth and dignity. We welcome all who enter our community, regardless of their tradition, race, identity, or whom they love. This morning, I'm very happy to serve as lay leader in support of longtime member Allan Pallay. The Pallays have been coming, I just confirmed, since somewhere around 1994. He's going to share his thoughts on engaging with nature as a source of spiritual experience. And this is a topic that Allan and I have bonded on, honestly, since probably our first conversation. This is a little bit of a full circle moment for me because Allan was one of the first presenters I ever heard when I came here. So it's really an honor to be able to lay before him. We come together this Sunday morning and every Sunday morning, not because we share a creed, but because we share a promise to support one another on our spiritual journeys. Our services are different each week, but the loving kindness we offer one another in this community remains the same. So whoever you are, wherever you are from, whomever you love, well, welcome to our service this morning. We're going to begin with announcements. We exemplify a small but mighty congregation. I love it. And I'm so happy and proud to be a part of it. If you have any announcements for the congregation to share, please come forward and use one of the microphones so that everybody can hear you here and online.
Good morning, I'm Sam, part of the Buildings and Grounds Committee. Sometime tomorrow afternoon, I'm thinking maybe around 1 o'clock, if I have to order off for a couple hours, I'll do some routine maintenance, change up some filters. Our UV light that kills the bacteria in the water hasn't been working for some time, so I have to take it apart, take it to San Antonio so they can figure it out. Versus trying to schedule an appointment for them to come out and do it, which is even more expensive and it's cheaper if I do it. So we'll probably off between 1 and 3. Hopefully nobody will be here. If you need to be here during that time, let me know and I can rearrange my schedule since I'm wonderfully retired.
And exactly the water is potable still or not?
It will be.
Is that but today is it?
Sorry?
Is it potable now?
Oh, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
We just had a
Make sure.
No, I had the water tested in end of July and everything's fine. It gets tested every 3 months.
Okay.
You're thinking that maybe the bulb is bad. They just put one in. It's all fine.
Okay.
Good morning, I'm Irene, and I have a couple announcements. First, our RE committee has had a wonderful adolescent playing trip to the beach last Sunday. Thank you for Ruby for organizing and to drive. We've had a wonderful time at the beach, and yeah, hopefully more trips like that to come. Another exciting announcement is the husband of one of our members, Alan Jensen Sellers, is looking to present in canning and food preservation workshop at the end of September. This is something that a lot of you have told me you wanted to see, and it's going to be another fundraising opportunity, more information to come. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Kay. I wanted to make a little announcement that today is Cecilia's last Sunday with us. Could you stand up for just a moment? She's joined. He's going to university, Temple University, and studying chemistry. You know, good luck and thank you so much for all that you've done, and we love your Ghost Blues. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Good morning, I'm Eric. Friendly reminder, September 12th, Saturday, 6 o'clock, we all want to be here for our annual benefit dinner to the south of the border. So please sign up, you may pay ahead, you can pay tonight. It is a 75 suggested donation, $35 a head, and we should all have a good time. There will be seltzer available if you don't drink, and please bring your kids, families, friends, their son. Thank you.
One more announcement I wanted to tackle on, there is a memorial service for Reverend Dave Farrington on August 22nd in New England. But the Duskies are traveling. Reverend Dave predates me, and I think a lot of the people here, but if you were interested, the Duskies would have more information on that. They were in contact with me to contact his family so that they can do a proper obituary on the website, and then that'll trickle into UU World, the publication. So that's the Reverend Dave Farrington update. Ms. Collier, if you're lighting the chalice, please. Today, we light this chalice as we set aside some time to think about and discuss the 7th UU principle, respect for interdependent web of existence, of which we are all a part. So I'm going to share a poem by Richard Feynman that when I was talking with Allan leading up to this, some of these sentiments and words were like ringing in my ears. He was discussing what he wanted to talk about. I stand at the seashore alone and start to think. There are these rushing waves, mountains of molecules, each stupidly minding its own business, trillions apart, yet forming white surf in unison, ages on ages, before any eyes could ever see, year after year, thunderously pounding the shore as they are now. For whom? For what? On a dead planet with no life to entertain, never at rest, tortured by their energy, wasted prodigiously by the sun, poured into space, a might makes the sea roar. Deep in the sea, all molecules repeat the patterns of one another till complex new ones are formed. They make others like themselves, and a new dance starts, growing in size and complexity, living things, masses of atoms, DNA, proteins, dancing a pattern ever more intricate. Out of the cradle onto dry land, here it is, standing, atoms with consciousness, matter with curiosity, standing at the sea, wonders at wondering, I, a universe of atoms, an atom in the universe. I think I'm gonna order. Does next opening words, Ms. Emily? Sorry.
Yep.
Screw me. Okay, our opening words are another thing that Allan and I align with, and it's some of the great nature writers. And he's going to talk to you today about how that kindles a sense of spirituality. One of the writers that I have loved for a really long time is John Muir. And he writes really beautifully about this relationship of spirituality in relation to the natural world. When we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything in the universe. This is one of the most famous lines that John Muir ever wrote. And Muir goes on to write, one fancies a heart like ours, our own, must be beating in every crystal and cell, and we feel like stopping to speak to the plants and the animals as friendly fellow mountaineers. Nature as a poet, an enthusiastic working man, becomes more and more visible the farther and higher we go. For the mountains are fountains, beginning places, however related to sources beyond mortal kind. Later that same summer, Muir was moved with an awareness of the exquisite and interconnectedness of nature, which transcends even individual mortality. He wrote, one is constantly reminded of the infinite lavishness and fertility of nature, inexhaustible abundance amid what seems to be enormous waste. And yet when we look into any of her operations that lie within reach of our minds, we learned that no particle of her material is wasted or worn out. It is eternally flowing from use to use, beauty to yet higher beauty. And we soon cease to lament waste and death, and rather rejoice and exult in the imperishable, unspendable wealth of this universe. And we faithfully watch and wait the reappearance of everything that melts and fades and dies about us, feeling sure that its next appearance will be better and more beautiful than the last. I want to share one more. This is one more passage from here. I have never yet happened upon a trace of evidence that seemed to show that any one animal was ever made for another, as much as it was made for itself. Not that nature manifests any such things as self-isolation. In the making of every animal, the presence of every other animal is recognized. Indeed, every atom in creation may be said to be acquainted with and married to every other. But with universal union, there is also division sufficient in degree for the purpose of the most intense individuality. No matter, therefore, what may be the note which any creature forms in the song of existence, it is made first for itself, then more and more remotely for all the world and worlds. The scenery of the ocean, however sublime and vast expanse, seems far less beautiful to us dry-shod animals than that of the land seen only in comparatively small patches. But when we contemplate the whole globe as but one great dewdrop, striped and dotted with continents and islands, flying through space with other stars all singing and shining together as one, this whole universe appears as an infinite storm of beauty. I think it's beautiful. Please stand in spirit or body if you are able, and join us in singing hymn number 203 in the gray hymnal, entitled All Creatures, Earth and Sky. Earth free verses. Only. So nice to hear Miss Lisa Jokel's voice. Next up, we have a story for all ages. This story is called Outside In by Deborah Underwood, and our RE chair, Miss Valerie, will be reading it.
up, guys? Anyone's gonna come listen? On, yep. Sorry. So who here likes going outside? Not when, oh, thank you. Not when it's super hot out maybe, but when I love the fall. That's my favorite time to go outside. And it's gonna be fall soon. So excited. So excited to be done with this humidity. So this story is called Outside In, and I think it's beautiful. And when I heard what Mr. Pallay would be talking about today, this is on, right? Yeah. Okay, for some reason I'm not hearing it. When I heard that he would be talking about nature and finding joy in nature, I thought this was perfect. And I also have an outside activity that the Embers class is going to do today. And everyone is welcome to join. So, Outside In by Deborah Underwood. Once, we were part of outside, and outside was part of us. There was nothing between us. Now, sometimes when we're outside, we're inside. We forget outside is there. So, outside reminds us. With flashes at the window and slow magic tricks, it sends the sunset and shadows inside to play. Outside sings to us with chirps and rustles and taps on the roof. It beckons with smells, sun-baked, fresh, and mysterious. What sorts of things do you think you could smell in this picture? Cool. The flowers. Can we smell bees? Maybe. I've never been close enough to one. Outside feeds us. Sun, rain, and seeds become warm bread and berries. Outside cuddle us in clothes, once puffs of cotton. It holds us in wooden chairs, once trees. We feel outside in the warm weight of our cats, and the rough fur of our dogs. Outside shows us there is a time to rest and a time to start fresh. You know, sunrise is my very favorite time of day. Beautiful. Outside steals inside. A spider seeking shelter, a box elder bug in the bath, a tiny snail on kale. Even rivers come inside, cool water rushing, eager to return to the sea. I'm here, outside says. I miss you. And we answer. Does it look like fall in this last picture? Yeah, such a great time to be. Thank you, Chloe. Are you guys ready to go outside with me? All right, let's go.
Join us as we sing the children off to their outside world. Dr. John is another longtime member who always puts it best that this church is a very special place, but it takes your time, your treasures, and your talents. So many of you share your talents in so many wonderful ways. This is the point of the service where we ask for your treasures. In learning more about UUFP and UU at large, and meeting with other congregations and other ministers with varying experiences, I really do feel so strongly that we have a very strong mission at this congregation. So we are a free church with no hierarchy, no government agency. No one has authority over us but ourselves. We maintain our status as a free church by accepting money from no outside source. In addition to annual pledges, our members and friends choose to give an additional donation during their Sunday worship as public witness that we are here and we will remain a free church. If this is your first time visiting, your presence here is gift enough. Thank you so much for your offering this morning. It is time to introduce Allan Pallay. He worked hard on this presentation. And he's going to share his relationship with spirituality in the natural world. Yep. This one. Is that what you're talking about?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's nice to be up here again. And it's nice that Chad and others have come into this congregation and are enabling it to continue. I was worried until I saw Chad and a few of the other people who came in. And now I have a lot of hope for the future of the fellowship. Okay. Okay. My presentation today will be about how my engagement with nature has been a source of spiritual experiences. I will now describe what I mean by a spiritual experience due to an engagement with nature. I consider that I have had a spiritual experience from an engagement with nature if that generates strong feelings for one or more of the following: awe, wonder, astonishment, mystery, beauty, connection, acceptance, or insight. And I will say, if time permits, I will get to the spiritual experiences that brought on every one of those feelings. So you'll understand what I mean by those words. I'm just going to take this.
Take as long as you want.
Okay. For me to have a spiritual experience, I have to have a high level of certainty that the experience which causes the feeling is real, and the interpretation of the experience is real. I will say more about this in a little while. So why did I choose these feelings to describe a spiritual experience? Well, that is because these are the feelings I have had in my engagement with nature. And also, I have seen many of the words that I wrote, that I just mentioned, awe, wonder, astonishment, mystery, beauty, connection, etc. I've seen many of the same words used by nature writers who describe their emotional reactions to nature. And surprisingly, some of these words have been also used to describe spiritual experiences from people who believe in a personal God. And that's very different from at least my view. So it is interesting that some of the feelings that people who believe in one of the monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, have a similar feeling about God that I have, similar to my feeling about nature. Now, I engage in nature in two ways. The first are personal experiences that I have in largely natural places. All the personal experiences that I think of as spiritual, that I came to believe they were spiritual from a personal engagement with nature, I had when I was alone. I love being in largely natural places with friends, but when I want to experience nature most truly, I need to be alone, where the social dynamic doesn't influence me. It's just me and nature. I think that that social dynamic can have a great influence. If you're with a lot of people, that social dynamic can affect what you're seeing, how you feel your involvement with nature is. The second way I engage with nature is by learning what science tells me about how various aspects of nature work. Many of the spiritual feelings I have listed above were generated by events and explanations I read in science books. I have also read reports of supernatural experiences. I believe their reports were sincere. However, and I've talked to many people who described the supernatural experiences they had. And I believe they were sincere. However, I believe with a high level of certainty that currently the most plausible explanations for how various aspects of nature work are scientific explanations. Now, there's a lot in that sentence. I wrote it very carefully. I recognize, and because there are some critics of the scientific approach. And if anybody here is a critic, that'd be fine. Maybe we'll have some time afterwards to talk about that. I like it. I say currently because science is always changing. So I wouldn't want to say that the current position that science takes on an issue is the right thing. It's always changing, and that's one good thing about it. There are many good things about the way science works. That gives me a lot of confidence that it's the best. Now, I don't say that it's the right explanation all the time. There are all sorts of things that happen in science. Science is about, the institution of science is a political system. So things that make political systems produce errors exist in science as well. So people have vested interests, for example, and I just mentioned one of them. My main man, Albert Einstein, let me start from something else here. I want to say something about light. Okay. People were interested in what light was. And Newton studied this. And Newton said that light consisted of little particles. And that, Newton had a tremendous amount of sway over the scientific community, and that was that was right, because he was right about many things. And a few people disagreed with him, like Huygens, the Dutch scientists who disagreed with him, felt that light was something else. And then in 1800, a guy by the name of Thomas, got his name now. He did an experiment with light, and he was able to get monochromatic light, thank you, light, and he shined that through it came through his window, and there were two slits, and the light went through the slits, and it produced what's called an interference pattern on the wall, on a wall, and that convinced most scientists that light was something which is called a wave. Now, I want to say something about a wave. You can think of a wave as something like a water wave. Okay? I think we're all familiar with water waves. And if you send a water wave down in a tub, and it has these two type slits, what you will see when the water wave hits the back of the tub will be this pattern where there would be high levels, and next to it there would be like possibly there would be no wave there, and then high levels, and you would see this pattern of high, low. And you would never see that if light were a particle. Because if light were a particle, it's like, say, shooting a machine gun against the two slits. You would see on the back of the wall a lineup of bullet hits behind the slits. You wouldn't see this pattern which goes on. So scientists then decided that light must be a wave. Now, one reason why a wave is of interest is that, particles can carry energy across space, even in a vacuum. You shoot something, it hits a wall, it may knock down the wall because it's carrying energy. It's the same thing with a wave. We know that light is carrying energy because you can get sunburn from it. And so that was another way that that energy could be carried through space, something like a wave. Okay, now in the middle of the 1800s, a fellow by the name of Maxwell came up with a set of equations which described a light wave, and it described a bunch of other things too. Maxwell's equations are one of the great discoveries done through mathematics of science. And he described beautifully what this wave was like. And technologists use that information to create all sorts of technical objects that work. Okay, so scientists were completely in agreement that light was a wave. Now, I'm going to say one thing about it. It's an electromagnetic wave. And I want to just say something about that. An electric charge creates a field, and it'll create it even in a vacuum. And what?
Let me go.
Yeah.
You go.
Yeah. And what that is, that seems very strange. It always seemed very strange to me. But if you have metal shavings and you have electric charge here, let's say, and you put metal shavings, you will see those metal shavings move into the certain pattern that is consistent with that electric charge. So the electric charge is doing something real. It's creating this pattern. And so what a wave is, what light is, and then what many other things, light is that, all right, I'm getting to that. Light is a wave of electrical energy. Okay. And that's kind of strange, but that's what it is. And then my main man came along in 1905, and he said that light has particle qualities. And nobody, even though he had already come out with relativity theory, nobody, the great scientists of the time, and they were really smart people, they didn't believe that. And in fact, when he went to try to get a job in an institute in Berlin, and he was supported by Max Planck, who was tremendously respected. Max Planck said, well, okay, he made a mistake. We can forgive him, you know, but he should get this job anyway. So he did get his job. And for 10 years, the scientific community said that he was wrong. Light's an electromagnetic wave. And after about 10 years, he's kept building up his case. Finally, the physics community just said you were right. And I think that says something about science. You know, when you have a strong theory, it's very hard to change it. And that's actually a good thing, because you have this theory and it gives you a lot of evidence. And to overturn that theory, you need to provide a tremendous amount of evidence. And okay, so Einstein, that was overturned. And I want to say one other thing, which is a good thing about science. Einstein can be called the father, might be called the father of quantum mechanics, because he contributed greatly to the development of quantum mechanics. But in the end, he said he didn't believe it. He said it was incomplete. And he was wrong. And despite the tremendous respect that people had for him, because he had done relativity and he contributed to quantum mechanics, eventually, science did not take his view. It went in another direction. And that was the correct direction. Einstein was wrong about it. Okay, and I think that you know, even you know, the God, in a way, of physics couldn't sway the community with his person. The evidence mounted against him. And okay. Okay. So the second way I engage nature is by learning what science tells us about various aspects of how nature works. Many of the spiritual feelings I have listed were generated by events and explanations I read in science. I have also read reports of supernatural events. And I believe the people, and I've also spoken to a lot of people who described the supernatural events they saw or they were involved in. And they were I felt they were some sincere people. However, as I said before, I believe with the highest certainty, with a high level of certainty, that the current most plausible explanation for how various aspects of nature work are scientific explanations. Therefore, I do not present any spiritual feelings that were based on an event I would call supernatural, or any explanations that come from supernatural that aren't accepted by science. So in essence, my spiritual experiences only come from an event and the explanation of those events that are consistent with science. So does that leave me only with boring, unexciting events? Well, no. There are many events in science that are absolutely fantastic, and some are so weird that they seem like magic. And there are plenty of those. And if you're not constrained by evidence and reason, you could imagine 100 different ways that things work in nature. They come, and so I'm interested in understanding reality. And I have plenty of fantasies, and I like my fantasies, but that's not, I wanted to, in a way, this is kind of like, I wanted to whatever fantasies I have, they have to be constrained, if I'm gonna believe a spiritual experience, no matter what kind of fantasies I have, if the event doesn't seem real, then I have to put that away. And now maybe it's true that maybe supernatural events are true. And maybe I'm missing out on some of the really good stuff by not accepting them or working with them. So if anybody has seen a supernatural event, or anyone wants to show me one, I'd be happy to see that. And you will note that I said earlier, not only do I reject the use of supernatural events, if I'm in a large group and a supernatural event is shown to me, and everybody is going with it, I won't believe that because of the social interaction. So I have a pretty strong standard there, but I'm willing to try anything. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about the spiritual experiences that I've had. When I went with my family, when my family finished giving our order to the waitress at the Bonefish restaurant in Exton, the waitress said, "Awesome." These days, it seems like we all have our own idea of what kind of event qualifies as awesome. I'm going to describe 2 events that I think qualify. And they generated awe in me, and that's one of the feelings that I said was a spiritual feeling. About 15 years ago, I was sitting at my desk in my office in the building at Pfizer, in a building on the far on the Pfizer College campus when I felt something that seemed like a slight shaking of the wall. I thought maybe a heavy cart with books had banged into the wall. But when I heard a commotion outside my office, I turned on the news and found out that what I felt was the shaking of the whole East Coast of the United States. I felt the shaking of the whole East Coast of the United States. That was awesome. On October 9th, 2022, the largest release of energy, we can say an explosion, was detected by astronomers. It released more energy in seconds than our sun will emit over its entire 10 billion year lifespan. That's unbelievable. I have to say it again. I have to remind myself what this is. Incredible. It released more energy in seconds than the sun will emit over its entire 10 billion year lifespan. It occurred 2.4 billion light years away when a massive star collapsed into a black hole. Now, we are lucky that it wasn't, let's say, that this didn't happen, let's say, say 10 billion light years away. 10 million light years away. Okay, so let's just think about this for a moment. A light year is how long the distance light travels in a year. And let's see. On my calculator. Good. We got time about that? Yeah, good, thanks. Let's, yeah, let's do it. Do it. Okay, so how a light travels 186,000 miles a second. So how what's the distance in miles of a light year? So you multiply by, you know what to do.
Yeah, can you walk me through it? I'm an English teacher.
So in a minute, it travels 16. It's
11 million.
okay, there's 60 seconds in there. Okay, so 186,000 miles a minute.
11,160,000.
Okay, good. So that is what, a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, now multiply the minute by 60 minutes in an hour. Multiply that by 60.
So 669 million.
Multiply that by 24.
So 16 billion.
Multiply that by 365 days.
I don't
You know what?
There's letters in the end. I don't know what to say.
Alright, so it looks like it's to the 12th hour.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
approximately.
Thank you.
Now that's 1 year, that's a light year. So if this thing, which is, let's see, about it's over a billion. Well over a billion, it's probably about 1 trillion miles away. And if this event happened, let's say 10,000 light years away, it would likely kill everybody on Earth. That's incredible. mean, that's not nice, but.
They said it's pretty awesome.
Ian Curley, astrophysicist at the Astrophysics Research Institute of Liverpool, said there's nothing in human experience that comes remotely close to such an outpouring of energy. Nothing. It seems so incredible that even a science fiction writer would probably think twice before they put that in fiction, because it seems like it's too unrealistic. But it is not. It's what nature presents them. It is real. And astronomy gives us the real story. No need for exaggeration or mysticism. Okay. The strongest thing that first attracted me to nature was her beauty. At first, I loved nature simply because of her beauty. I realized that what I thought was the most beautiful thing that I had easy access to were plants, particularly flowering plants, because of their complex structure, particularly when they were flowering for obvious reasons, and particularly wild plants. Why wild plants? Because wild plants are independent organisms that are struggling to survive and thrive, just like me. They ask no one to plant them, to water them, no one to fight off the plants that are trying to shade them out and take their space. No one has to spread their seed. They are willing to do those things themselves, and some of them are quite good at it. And we call those ones that are quite good at it invasive weeds. But think of it, they are admirable forms of life. But there is another reason why I like wild plants. I love wild places because for many reasons. Because one of them being that in wild places, I feel closest to nature. So I took to the field and forest with a plant guidebook in hand, with the aim of identifying the name of as many plants as I could, and remember their names the next time I saw them. Now that's hard. At the time I did this, there was no phone-based identification program. It meant that I had to pay close attention to their structure. And that led me to increase my sensitivity of the beauty of nature. And that made me feel. And eventually I learned and remembered the names of many plants. And I used to walk through the woods, and when I'd see a plant, I would wave and say hello. Remember, Jessica Matthews said that to us, when she said that, I understood it. It made me feel that these plants were part of my world. It made me feel connected to nature. So nature, said she, has beauty on the surface. Now I am a shallow man, so beauty on the surface is usually enough for me. So I wanted to pull back the veil and see what was beneath the veil. So being impatient, I went all the way. I decided to see how the cells in these plants, and in fact, those were anything. And what I found was absolutely fantastic. I want to read the preface. So I bought a cell bio, which is this. And I started reading it. And the person, the writer of the book writes the preface. In our world, there is no form of matter more astonishing than the living cell. Tiny, fragile, miraculously intricate. Miraculously intricate. I learned that from here. So it was made it so hard. I wish it wasn't so intricate. Could have finished it in much less time. Yet preserving, continually made afresh, preserving its DNA record of information dating back more than 3 billion years. The first cell developed on Earth pretty soon after the Earth just started to cool. Ceaselessly re-engineered and diversified by evolution, extraordinarily versatile and adaptable. The cell retains a complex core of self-replicating chemical machinery that is shared endlessly repeated in every living organism, face of the earth, every animal, every leaf, every bacteria. I'll be done with this in a minute. So the cell is tremendously complex. And to give you an idea about that, so this is the book, and this book is called, Essential Cell Biology, Essential Cell. So this only has the essentials. You need, for a clear account of the essentials of cell biology, became apparent is there was to us while we were writing Molecular Biology of the Cell, now in its 5th edition. Molecular Biology of the Cell is a large book. It's larger than this. Aimed at advanced undergraduates and graduate students specializing in life sciences. Well, there's many students and educated laypeople who require an introductory account of cell biology would find this other book too detailed for their needs. In contrast, this book is designed to give the fundamentals of cell biology. And the bigger book, that doesn't even have all that's there. Okay, so he wrote about all the stuff that's going on in a cell. Now a cell is doing all that stuff. A cell has about 5,000 reactions going on at once. And when I read this book talks about some of those reactions, and I read about all those reactions, but how do they have the cell synchronize everything? You know, because a reaction means that you have these simple substrates, they are taken up in a reaction, and then there's an enzyme that has to come in to speed up the reaction. If we have enzymes to speed up the reaction, we couldn't live. And then all of these things have to be synchronized because the cell, this reaction is producing something. So you gotta get the substrates to it, and then that goes to something else. And then there's waste products you have to take away. And sometimes two things have to come on the next step from two reactions of three or four. And I couldn't imagine how this is all this thing could be synchronized. And so this is the last part of this. So I found this article. It's called "The Living Cell is a Self-Synchronized Chemical Reactor." And this is in the Journal of Physical Chemistry. I didn't take PChem. You know PChem, right? Okay. And he pointed out that what I said, he said, nobody knows how the cell can do this. And some of the important reactions in the cell are operated. One of the most important ones, about 1,000 times faster than that same reactor that you would, say a chemical engineer could get that reaction to go. And there's one other thing mentioned about that. There's a lot of technical stuff in here, but if you're in a solution, you have all these, and it's above absolute zero. You have all these particles bouncing around. If it makes heat, that. And there's a lot of and they bounce around at random. But the cell has a way of using, it's called thermal fluctuations. Use those thermal fluctuations to run some of their reactions. It was difficult for me to even contemplate how they can use something that was random to help run a reaction. And maybe that because it's not meaningful. Okay. So that's astounding. And he talks in this article about how we have to go about trying to understand how the cell does it. And one other thing about the cell, and then I'll finish. He says that as you can see, I wasn't completely organized for this thing. So, we want to just speak it. Okay, so the cell is, there are certain reactions that every cell must do. You might call them housekeeping procedures. It must produce energy. That's that food and produce energy to run the reactions in the cell. And there are two kinds of reactions. Downhill reactions that go on their own. And there are uphill reactions, which you have to add energy to. And what the cell does is it takes, break down from the food you eat, let's say, and produces glucose. And that in itself is a big many reactions with that. And you think of glucose as the raw petroleum, let's say, crude petroleum. And then in every cell, from the most basic, archaic cells, the most simple, to every kind of mammal cell, every cell takes that glucose and produces through, 27 reactions or more. Something called ATP. ATP is the gasoline that runs the cell. And so if you want to pray to something, pray to ATP. If you want to build a monument, build it to ATP. ATP is the gasoline of the cell. And what it does is ATP has a lot of energy. So that gets paired with a reaction in the cell that is uphill. And ATP goes downhill to ADP. And that releases energy, and that energy is used to push the uphill reaction of the cell. The uphill reaction, like building something, which takes energy to build something. And that is exactly the same in all these, forms of life. And people know about, about DNA, right? Does anybody have any idea how DNA works? Okay. We'll just say the DNA is the instructions to produce protein. And protein is the workhorse of the cell. That does all the work. And the system that produces proteins from DNA is exactly the same in all cells from the simplest archaea up to the top. And that makes me gives me the sense of connection. And okay, I think I've run over time. I'm gonna stop there. It's a lot more. In time. Okay, sorry.
You're okay, totally fine, don't worry about it. People say. All right. Thank you so much, Alan.
Yeah.
You're very good. You so much, and you still have your fastball. Gotta be a good feeling. We move on to our closing hymn number 21 for the beauty of earth. If you would stand in body or spirit as you're able. Now we're at the point of our service where we turn up our Zoom call and leave time for and leave space for sharing our joys and sorrows. If there's anything that, yes, Monica, yes. The woman who laid the foundation for me. Yeah, thank you, Monica. So we extinguish this flame, but not the light of wisdom, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and in our hands, until we are together again. So I won't go into it because we're over, but my new book is taking place in Potter County, which is like where I connect with nature. And I'm researching this writer who's the Walt Whitman of Wellsboro, George Washington Sears. So if you want to hear my sermon on George Washington Sears, ask me anytime. But he's got this beautiful poem that also came to mind when I was talking to Allan about his presentation. This is called Our Camping Grounds. There is a spot where plumy pines overhang these sylvan banks of otters, where pigeons feed among the vines that hang above the limpid water. There wood ducks build in hollow trees and herons among the mottled sedges, while drifting on the summer breeze float satin clouds with silver edges. 'Tis there the blue jay hides her nest in thickest shade of drooping beeches. The fish hawk, statue-like in rest, stands guard over glassy pools and reaches. The trout beneath the grassy brink looks out for shipwrecked flies and midges. The red deer comes in search of drink from laurel brake and woodland ridges. And on the stream a birch canoe floats like a freshly fallen feather, a fairy thing that will not do for broader seas or stormy weather. Beneath a hemlock grim and dark, where shrub and vine are intertwining, our shanty stands, well roofed with bark, on which the cheerful blaze is shining. The smoke ascends in spiral wreath, with upward curve the sparks are trending. The coffee kettle sings beneath, where smoke and spark and leaves are bending. Upon the whole, this life is well. Our lines are cast in pleasant places, and it is better not to dwell on missing forms and vanished faces. They have their rest beyond our bourne. We miss the old familiar voices. We will remember, we will not mourn. The heart is poor that never rejoices. We had our day of youth and May. We may have grown a trifle sober, but life may reach a wintry day. But right now, we are only in October. 3rd October reference to the service. Thank you so much. We have Cecilia's final postlude. Thank you again, Cecilia, for spending your time with us. And once Cecilia concludes, coffee hour is upon us. All right, please join us in the social hall for coffee.